It only seems like the logical option to start this series off with the Mirran creation myth, so let's introduce you to the cast of this short story. Firstly, we have our main character and antagonist, Aronaq. Aronaq is the original god, and yes, he is faceless. He is depicted as such in Mirran art for reasons that will become apparent later in this video. Second is Aronaq's wife, Meni. She doesn't do a whole lot, but she is also faceless. Third, the aforementioned couple's children, Yamashet and Kambalu, the patron deities of blood and the harvest, respectively. They are this story's protagonists, and at this point, they're already grown up and have had two children of their own, Luvi and Sumat. Luvi and Suma are both young at the time of these events, and though they later become major deities themselves, they're more supporting characters in this story. Along with the gods and goddesses in this story are a host of spirits known as the Zukarolas, which are warrior spirits trained with a weapon called a kazu. There aren't any that are individually important, but together they come into play in a major way. Unfortunately, this story does require a bit of a gore warning. There is murder, maiming, and blood in this one, but it's not too graphic. For all those who haven't clicked off yet, let's get to it. Of course, we have to start off with the obligatory black screen, because before there was anything, there was nothing. Aronaq popped into existence, the Mirans don't really know or care how, and got lonely, so he created many to be with him. They had kids, and those kids had kids, and they all lived happily in the spiritual realm Aronaq had created for them, named Oran, until Aronaq became just a little too infatuated with his personal army. A side note, before we get too deep into the story, there are several unknowns about Aronaq, such as how he came into existence or why he decided to create an army. Like I said, the Mirans don't know this information, and they don't care to know either, because they prefer to not meddle in the history of the deities they perceive as evil. So, if it seems like there are a few plot holes here, there's my in-world justification for them. Now, let's continue. This personal army Aronaq was raising was becoming quite skilled in the use of the kazu, the weapon depicted here. It is a disc made of some light metal with either serrated or bladed edges, and its method of killing is via decapitation, or at least some horrible neck injury that could cause paralysis. So yes, it is a death frisbee. The army, made up of the Zukarolas, had gotten really good at wielding these weapons, but Aronaq was so obsessed with sharpening their skills that he overworked them, and they started to get a little bit disgruntled with him. Desiring a rest from their constant practice, they hid their weapons in a place Aronaq would not find. Predictably, their practice was delayed, but Aronaq was infuriated at their insolence, and he was incredibly paranoid, so he locked everyone except for himself and his wife in a prison. Most tellings of the myth make note that Meni was not in full agreement with this decision, but she played along to avoid her husband's wrath. Naturally, the deities and spirits locked away in prison were getting a bit stir-crazy, like quite a few of you watching this during the pandemic. They wanted to escape, but couldn't. That is, until Luvi provided a solution. While walking around, Luvi tripped over a rock and cut himself, and when his blood seeped onto the stone, it dissolved. He told his father, Yamashet, and they realized they had found their way out. Gathering the four deities and the spirit army, Yamashet commanded his wife and children to cut themselves and allow themselves to bleed on the floor of their prison, because it would create an opening for them to escape out of. They did this, and the Zukarolas swarmed Aronaq and Meni, pinning them down. Two spirits, named Laiduk and Maru, according to the text, retrieved their kazus and gave them to Yamashet, who wasted no time slitting both of his parents' throats with them. Taking his place as chief of the gods, Yamashet got straight to work remodeling the universe. With the help of his new army, the prison was pushed to the very bottom of Oran. When it hit the bottom, flames erupted inside it from the impact, and lakes of toxic liquids sprung up, ready to devour all who stepped foot inside them. A mountain appeared in the middle, Mount Garod, and two rivers flowed from its summit, the river Sineb, which cursed all who fell into it with unimaginable pain, and the river Kamked, which cursed all who came in contact with its waters with astounding stupidity. Oftentimes, souls of the deceased would fall into the river Kamked and then wander into the Sineb, thinking the water might taste good. This should give a glimpse into what sorts of things the Mirans value in other people, or, more accurately, what qualities they look down upon most. With the prison dealt with, now called Ubejesh, Yamashet dragged his parents' bloody corpses to the center of the universe, where he mangled his father's body into a flat plane. This somewhat vague wording has confounded Miran priests and theologians for centuries. Some take it to mean that Keshaz is flat, while others interpret it as more of a loose statement, where Keshaz is actually spherical and the flat plane part was more metaphorical. Regardless, Aronaq's body became the land of Keshaz, and, after Yamashet stabbed him several times, his blood became the oceans. Yamashet floated on down to Keshaz, where he uprooted a tree and carved the first man, who he named Uruk. Yamashet walked with his new sapient creation for a while, describing the events that had just transpired. Uruk then carved a wife from a tree, named her Samti, and they went into the forest to obey Yamashet's command to fill the world with their descendants. Wondering what happened to Meni's corpse? Don't worry, because Yamashet did not waste that either. After ripping her arms off to form the moon, called Nedoraz, which literally just means arms in early Nucrian, he appointed his daughter Sumat to watch over the moon. Sumat became the moon goddess, and later became the goddess of love, lust, and marriage, which is why all of those things are associated with the moon. Luvi wanted a job as well, so Yamashet assigned him the task of riding the sun horse Umor across the sky every day to give the people of Keishaz light. Luvi also became the god of intelligence, so intellect and sunlight became inextricably linked as well. As for the rest of his mother's corpse, Yamashet repurposed it as the Miran equivalent of heaven, Omet. Every telling of this myth makes it very clear that Omet is flat, whereas with Keishaz it's somewhat ambiguous. I say flat, but Omet is large enough to have its own mountain ranges, as well as other geographical features like rivers. Many's knees became the highest two mountains in Omet, named Akbat and Rahut. There is a huge river that flows either from the top of one of her knees or from between her legs, depending on which version of the myth you hear, called Dunevri, which provides rain for Keishaz. In order to preserve the already deteriorating family friendliness of this channel, we'll say the river comes from one of her knees. Yamashet was still not done, however, even after he created his throne room in Many's neck. He had one more thing left to do: bury the Kazos he used to murder his parents deep within Keishaz. He buried them, assigning Laiduk and Maru the task of watching over them to make sure no one got any ideas. The murder frisbees still had the blood of Aronaq and Many on them, which brings me to a central idea in this world: blood. According to the Mirans, blood is the carrier of the soul. Well, half of it, at least, but that'll be explored in another video. What you need to know now is that the blood of the deceased can be used to accomplish some freaky stuff, like possibly resurrecting that particular dead person, which really keeps the Miran gods on edge, and you'll see why in upcoming videos. The account ends with the conclusion of the events, solidifying Yamashet's place as the new chief deity, and, in a sort of slap in the face to his father, specifying that Keishaz is his creation, not Aronaq's. As always, let me know what you think of the video. Feel free to comment, and I'll see you in the next one.